Hello, good morning and welcome to Sports Central 11 exclusive to Spectrum Television. Coming a day after the Super Eagles B team of Nigeria were embarrassed just last night in the second game of the tournament against Sudan. And at the moment, it looks like Eddie Sekuchel's boys, even with one game left in the group stages of a competition to play, they have been eliminated from the group stage of the Chan tournament. Senegal were able to get victory in their second game, not victory rather, but a draw in their second game. And at the moment, they're just one game away from also sealing the quarterfinal spot. To take a look at other games expected later today at the Chan competition that is currently up and running. The D Tigers of Nigeria will also begin their quest to win their second men's Afro basketball tournament, as they will also be in action much later today. Can they make it up to Nigerians as we saw the D Tigers last month? Is still a question on the lips of many. The Cincinnati Open is currently up and running as well. Top-seeded players making their way through to the next stage. We'll also look at the world of football this morning as regards the world of transfers with players see moving left, right and centre. Barca had a friendly game yesterday and they were victorious. Look at Paris Saint-Germain in the UEFA Super Cup against Tottenham Hotspur, as we'll be looking forward to supremacy, who takes it later today. Will definitely be a conversation as well. But let's first of all bring you up to speed with some big development making rounds in the exciting world of sports. I am Utabe David. Welcome once again to the show. Carlos Zakaria's wasted little time racking up his 50th win for the season yesterday at the Cincinnati Open. The number 2 in the ATP rankings east passed Hamad Mejanovic 6-4, 6-4 in testing conditions at the ATP Masters 1000 event. Alcaraz kept his cool in the Hoyo heat to notch a tour-leading 50th victory of 2025 and his 13th consecutive Masters 1000 win. Alcaraz and Bejanovic are both 22 years old, former champions at the next-gen ATP finals, and the opening stages of the pair's maiden head-to-head clash were hard-fought. Having already lifted titles in Monte Carlo and Rome in his current Masters 1000 winning streak, Carlos Alcaraz will take on Luca Nardi next in Cincinnati as he chases his 8th trophy at that level. Italian lucky loser Nardi led 16th seed Jakub Mensik 6-2, 6-1 when the Czech retired from the pair's 4th-round clash. Well, to the WTA scene where two-time major champion Barbara Krejcikova come back from injury took another step forward with a hard-fought 6-4, 3-6, 6-2 win over 17-year-old lucky loser Iva Jovic in the Cincinnati Open 3rd round. Krejcikova required 7 match points to seal victory in 2 hours and 28 minutes. After a period of inconsistency, injuries, pauses, and little enjoyment on the court, it seemed that Barbara Krejcikova is finally reaching that turning point that will allow her not to return to the top positions in the rankings, but to regain some consistency within a calendar that has been barely seen her play. In the 7th tournament of the season, the Czech player finally managed to break her ceiling in this 2025, stringing together 3 consecutive victories for the first time. Krejcikova will next face number 7 seed Jasmine Paolini, who served 1 set points down 6-5 in the first set en route to defeating number 26 seed Ashlyn Kruger 7-6, 6-1 in a rematch of the 2024 Wimbledon final. Krejcikova claimed her second major crown by winning that much 6-2, 2-6, 6-4 and leads the overall head-to-head, 2 victories and no losses. Away from that to the track and field event where Nigeria's Favour Ofili and Chukwuebuka Nekwechi produced commendable performance at the 2025 Memorial Athletic Competition in Budapest, but fell just short of top spot in a meeting packed with world-class talent and record-breaking feats. The World Athletics Continental Tour Gold event held yesterday drew an elite field across several disciplines, with spotlights on Olympic medalists, continental champions, and record holders. For Nigeria, Ofili and Enekochi stood out in highly competitive contest, while Samuel Ogazi made his return to international action, and Keisula Ajayi was forced to withdraw from the men's 100-meter. In the women's 200-meter, Ofili marched Jamaica's Ashanti Moore stride for stride in one of the evening contests. Both athletes clocked 22.31 seconds, but Jamaica edged the win by the slimmest of margins after the photo finish review. Enekochi, Africa's shot put record holder, maintained his reputation as one of the world's leading throwers with a third-place finish in the men's event. The 31-year-old recorded a best mark of 21.15 meters on his second attempt, finishing behind two of the sport's heavyweights as Olympic silver medalist Joe Kovac of the United States dominated the competition with a winning throw of 22.33 meters in the third round, the only mark over 22 meters on the night, while New Zealand's Tom Walsh took second with 21.52 meters. To the world of football, where Super Eagles striker Paul Nwachu has expressed delight following his match-winning display for his club Trabzonspor in the Turkish Super League opener against Kayserispor on Monday. The 31-year-old, who recently completed his permanent move from English Championship outfit Southampton to Trabzonspor this summer, had sustained an ankle injury in a pre-season fixture last month and was tipped to be on the sidelines for as long as 4 weeks. However, the former gang forward made a speedy recovery to secure a starting berth in coach Fatih Tekke's starting lineup, going on to feature for 77 minutes, where he had 4 shots and scored Trabzonspor's only goal in the 49th minute, as they started their domestic campaign with all 3 points at home. Still talking sports, Jose Mourinho's Fenerbahce side surged into the Champions League qualifying playoffs by overturning a 2-goal deficit on Tuesday against Ruben van Persie coached Feyenoord side. Fenerbahce had lost 2-1 in the Netherlands last week and fell further behind in the second leg of the third qualifying round clash when Feyenoord defender Tyoshid Watanabe scored the opener in the 41st minute. Mourinho's team rallied quickly with 2 goals before half-time. The second by Colombian forward John Duran on a season-long loan deal from Saudi club Al Nassr on the way to a 5-2 win on Tuesday night. Fenerbahce advanced 6-4 on aggregate score. Fenerbahce will host Benfica, who beat Nice in their qualifier in the first leg of the playoff round next week, with a place in the lucrative 36-team league phase at stake. Well, that's all we have here this time. We'll take a very short break. When we return, we'll have an extensive conversation on all of these sports stories and much more.
Get ready for the exciting showdown, the biggest names, the toughest competition, and the most thrilling moments. From the gridiron to hardwood and from the pitch to the track. Join us for Sports Central, the most electrifying sports program on television, every weekday from 11 a.m. to 12 noon on Spectrum Television. Sports Central, your home for sports. Get ready for the exciting showdown, the biggest names, the toughest competition, and the most thrilling moments. From the gridiron to hardwood, and from the pitch to the track. Join us for Sports Central, the most electrifying sports program on television, every weekday from 11 a.m. to 12 noon on Spectrum Television. Sports Central, your home for sports.
Good morning. Welcome to another exciting time. We talk about the best of stories in the world of sports. It is Sports Central, and my name is Blyden Okem. Exciting times ahead. A multiple conversation to look forward to would be definitely a Cincinnati Open attraction, and many tennis players entering the fourth round of it, and it's getting even further exciting, especially in the women's category. And while the numbers counting with the likes of Carlos Alcaraz, second-seeded player in the world, showing class and dominance against another 22-year-old in that direction. Well, we're talking about the meet that's taking place in Budapest. The likes of Favor, Philly, and the likes are trying the best they can to show class and dominance, but still didn't add up enough for them. Well, the likes of Zverev also struggling, but the saddest of them all will be a story of Eric Sekochal, the coach of the Super Eagles of Nigeria, coaching the B team, and they were walloped 4-0 by Sudan. It would definitely be a key conversation. Also looking forward to the qualifiers in the UEFA Champions League. Well, Tibadev and Funnyton are being part of the mix this morning. And really, guys looking not too happy after that embarrassment, but the guys have to do what they have to do. Be ready for the job, and here they are. Which, good morning, so good to see you. How good are you?
Exciting day to return, irrespective of what happened to the Super Eagles B side. I refuse to be sad at the moment.
Okay.
Definitely I have to be happy because we're expecting them to return back to the shores of a country. I think I'm quite delighted about the very fact that now it's a reality check that Nigeria, especially the national team, is not as baked as many Nigerians thought we are at the moment. So we still have baked. A long way to go for Eric Sekochal, because I'm still not convinced, even with the foreign pros, when they return back to the FIFA World Cup qualifiers. So he has a whole lot of job to do from here.
A big job for Eric Shaw to do. Funny tonight. Good morning. How are you today?
I'm doing quite good. Talking about Nigerian players doing so well abroad. Paul Onuachu hit the ground running immediately in his second debut. You like to call it that way, because he played for Trabzonspor last season before last, and he's back now with the side. He scored a goal in their 1-0 win at the start of the season. So it looks like Turkey is a good hunting ground for the man.
And Turkey is a good hunting ground for the man, Paul Onuachu, but the other conversation will be the performance of some Nigerians. Some Nigerians are being touted to go to the Turkish league, the likes of Kelechi and Iheanacho, a seal postulation looking at the transfer market. But we're going to talk about football stories and the cost of it. Let's begin the conversation today from the world of tennis. The Cincinnati Open in Canada. We'll begin from there, straight up. Carlos Alcaraz now showing class and dominance, getting a 50th win in 2025 in Cincinnati, the most by any player in the footballs and not football and the tennis season. Well, a second-seeded player, and that's one, Utuma David, got a better of another 22-year-old to talk about. If you want to ask questions about it, Ahmad Medjadovic, 6-4, a 6-4 victory for Carlos Alcaraz, reaching the round of 16.
Yeah, we're talking about a more experienced Carlos Alcaraz, despite you know, both of them being same age, but more experienced Carlos Alcaraz, you know, who's won the Cincinnati Open before, as a matter of fact. So you won't compare him with Medjadovic, who I think about 2 years ago or thereabouts, we're talking about him being an next-gen ATP star, basically. So look at Carlos Alcaraz at the moment. Many would say the very fact that he's right here shows the level of, you know, quality he's got, and the very fact that we're also talking about him being among top contenders for the Cincinnati, you know, Open at the end of it. So I think it wasn't quite more of a difficult game for Carlos Alcaraz in this one, because if there's anything I've actually noticed from him, despite the very fact the last few competitions he started on a very difficult note, always trying to find a balance, but eventually growing in games. But in this game, it was quite an easy one for him, cruising through to the next round of a competition. I think it might just be another projection that Carlos Alcaraz is no longer struggling in the opening exchanges of games, big tournaments as big as this. We may just likely see him make it to the finals. Unfortunately, Wimbledon couldn't win it. Maybe the Cincinnati Open is another time for the man to stake a big claim in here. A big favorite to get this one. Still early stages. We're looking forward to see what happens.
Well, for the 10 3 Grand Slams have taken place. Yannick Sinner's won 2, Carlos Alcaraz won now, the French Open. And both players got to the final last 2 Grand Slam. It seems like Carlos is hitting ground running. A 50th win for him, the highest by any player. Now world number 2 he is, chasing the record against Yannick Sinner. 13 consecutive victory for Carlos Alcaraz. You think it might be an end of the day? Thus we're looking forward to the US Open, where Carlos Alcaraz might leapfrog Yannick Sinner as world number 1.
Well, I think with the ranking points currently, as we see it, no, it's not possible, even if you know, Carlos Alcaraz gets to win it, because we all know Yannick Sinner is going to make it as far as the semi-final. He's always that good. So I don't think Alcaraz is going to leapfrog the man anytime soon, because that the gap is enough to close out the even at the ATP final. So maybe next season, next you know, ATP season, we can start talking about that. But for now, I think Yannick Sinner has already solidified. Both of them currently are the only ATP stars to have qualified for the ATP finals at the end of the ATP season. So it shows you how dominant they've been. Carlos Alcaraz has already won 2 1,000 Masters this year. That's the most by any player on tour level this particular year. So the man Yannick Sinner dominating when it comes to Grand Slams. Yannick Sinner Carlos Alcaraz dominating when it comes to ATP Masters. So I think they're evenly shared amongst each other. So Carlos Alcaraz gets to dominate the 1,000 Masters, and Yannick Sinner takes the Grand Slams.
Well, if you get to wonder what I was looking at and trying to figure out was the ranking points and the difference that comes with it, and definitely Yannick Sinner world number 1, ranking point 12,030 points. Carlos Alcaraz 8,590 points. So you can see a huge gap, almost a 4,000 gap, 3,000 plus gap in that direction, about 3,500 gap in that direction. So a huge one. It would take Carlos Alcaraz winning 2 Grand Slams to leapfrog him, definitely.
Not just winning and Yannick Sinner also fondly.
So that's a huge one to really talk about until the year end and see what happens. But it's adding up and racking up the numbers in terms of ATP tour level. That could count for something, and definitely. Let's get further. The Cincinnati Open still. Alexander Zverev, the German international, has a 1 game from victory before Ren halted it. Definitely, Ren has been a big issue at Cincinnati. If you ask me, definitely. He took on Brendan Nakashima, another U.S. player in this one, a 6-4, 5-4, and Ren disrupted proceedings. The 2021 tournament champion had just broken a 4, a 6-4, a 6, a 5-4 lead in this. Well, he's gotten good record for abandoned matches, coming back to win it, so not a big deal anyway. Andrei Rublev also keeping hope alive with Popperin win in this one. World number 9, the 9th seed rather, not the world number 1, 9th seed rallying to age 21st seed Alexia Popperin in it. Well, Utuma David, the big gong, somewhat somehow in Cincinnati are doing what they know how to do best.
Absolutely. We talk about Alexia Popperin in the competition in Montreal, the last one before the Cincinnati Open. He was a defending champion there. Unfortunately, couldn't defend that title at the end of the tournament. So I think this is another major challenge for him at the moment. Looking forward to see how far he could actually get away from, you know, the previous, you know, defeat in the last competition where he entered as a defending champion. For the likes of Andrei Rublev, Well, I still do not know when exactly or where exactly Andrew Rublev will finish, because most of the
Oh, it's
times,
difficult to know.
yeah, because most of the time it's more like a trend where you get to see the likes of Darren Medvedev being knocked out of a competition, the likes of what's his name now, former 1,000 former 1,000 Masters winner. Tsitsipas just follow suit. The next thing you hear, Andrew Rublev followed the same way. But I think it might just be a different case for Andrew Rublev because the first two players I've mentioned already been kicked out of the tournament as early as the first round. So Andrew Rublev at the moment is still looking forward to see where exactly we'll finish. But to count him among the favorites, very difficult at the moment. The man might just disappoint to even get into the quarterfinals of the encounter. But I think it's quite good for him at the moment, keeping hopes alive and winning those games as it comes every single time.
Well, talking about keeping hopes alive, let's talk about the women's game in Cincinnati then, the WTA part of it, and what's the likes of Jessica Pegula early hours of this morning, showing class and not too much of the world of dominance, I would say, but I think we had another suspended game in this regard. It's been a story at the competition at Cincinnati Lightning Storm affecting some of these tennis players. For Jessica Pegula, fourth-seeded player, against Linnet, it was 7-6 victory in the first set for Magda Linnet, and then 6-3 victory for Jessica Pegula, moving forward, but the game was suspended in the cost of 8. Well, let's talk about those who weren't really suspended then. The likes of Barbara Krejcikova advancing to the next round after a Jovic text. Well, Valentina, she came out to really be so impressed with Jovic and saying, look, she was so impressed with a 17-year-old and what she was able to achieve so far, despite losing. She lost the second set, talking about Barbara Krejcikova, a 6-4, 3-6, a 6-2 victory for her at the end of the way. One of those concerns that's always been the concern for her has been that of injury, but she struck off multiple injuries to show class and dominance at this competition.
Well, she's played 3 matches in a row for the first time since 2023, so it shows you how important this particular season has been for Barbara, because she's always struggled with injury, just like you mentioned. Her quality has never been in question, in coming to competitions like this. It's always about injury, withdrawing from games and all of that. But currently, 3 games in the stretch, I think it's the beginning of something positive for Barbara, getting to defeat the lady Ivanovic, who is 17 years of age. I think more stiff opponents along the way in this particular competition, the likes of Corey Kokogava, weight and all of that. So definitely, I think she's going to face a more stiff opponent. But for now, I think it's good for her to get that consistency, because that's what's been lacking from her game. Not being able to play consistently. You cannot really tell if there's been improvement or not. So playing one game, gets on an injury, now comes back and all of that. So you cannot really look at the areas of her game and see where there are faults and all of that. So I think it's great to finally see her, compete consistently at games like this.
Well, competing consistently is the thing from Valentina regarding Barbara Krejcikova being able to hit those numbers. 3 consecutive games has been for her. Well, quickly, since you mentioned Kokogov, let's go there. Corey Kokogov advanced via walkover after Diana the Armstrengker withdrew due to illness. So Kokogov didn't hit her racket at all, just get to qualify to the next level of it. And one key concern at this competition has been that of weather issues disrupting the flow at Cincinnati, but it's basically what it is. Well, before we move to athletics and talk about athletics, let's just conclude with this. One game that will be taking place, well, some of the games that will be taking place in the women's category, WTA, at the Cincinnati Open, definitely will be the suspended match between Jessica Pegula and Linnet, but the likes of Clara Towson will be taking on Victoria Kunamatova in this one, and we're having Iga Swiatek against Krista, and in the round of 16 will be Elena Rybakina against Madison Keys. Well, surely we most often than not when we talk about these games, it seems like the likes of Iga Swiatek might get a better of Krista, but let's talk about let's talk about Elena Rybakina against Madison Keys. That is a big one definitely to look forward to in Fantasy.
Well, definitely. When you look at Madison Keys, she has already won a Grand Slam this year, but Elena Rybakina has struggled to even get to tour level competitions to the finals. Well, I think this is one competition where she's really she's always doing so well when it comes to the hardcore swing. So I think this might be her competition, because when you look at it, I think the weather conditions have really affected a lot of our athletes in this particular competition. Iga Swiatek had to struggle in her first game. Corey Kokogov in the first game had to struggle as well. The second game she did not hit a ball. So when you look at it, Elena Rybakina has had more dominating. This is the second round of this competition now. Second round of round thereabout, and she's had
Is
a
the
very
third round of the competition.
And she's had very convincing wins. So I would say maybe this is that tournament where we get to see Burkina rise against all odds, and maybe you swap the top contenders and get something handy for herself.
Well, now they're at the round of 16 of the competition. Before we move away from here, let's talk about Clara Townsend. Townsend, we saw at the Toronto Open the National Bank Open what she was able to achieve. Got to a heightened level of it, despite not winning it, but she's back at it. It could be one to build that momentum against Kotomatova.
Well, I think for Clara Townsend, one thing that stands out is the very fact that at the National Bank Open, she was used to, defeating top-seeded players in that competition. So it rings a bell here now. Many are looking forward to see whether she will be able to, of course, continue on that trajectory, which I feel, the more you get the better of top-seeded players, the more your confidence also grows. But most times, it doesn't really count in you adding titles to your name. But I think whoever she's facing in this competition, she will be much, confident about herself and the quality she can actually possess from here. Well, still a youngster at the early stages, but I think the future is bright for Clara Townsend.
Well, the future seems bright for Clara Townsend. The guys have spoken about it. And quickly we move away from the Cincinnati Open and talk about the athletics competition that's taking place. Some of the meets that are taking place in the world, one of them are being Budapest Open. And while a fine margin had to deny Favor Ofili as well as Senekwechi glory in Budapest in the women's 200 meters event, Ofili Jamaica's Ashanti Moore and a stride for stride in this one. One of the evening's closest finishes put Arthur's clocks at 22.31 seconds, but the Jamaican edged to win by the slimmest of margin after a photo finish review. Well, quite consequential now, and people begin to wonder what she's representing at this tournament as it stands now. After the rumors about talk about joining Turkey, and many Nigerians are still looking at attraction, a favor awfully, but a good tournament for her, preparatory tournament, many would say.
Well, at the moment, she's still a Nigerian international until it is officially, changed on the website of athletics, an international body. But I think it's good. Maybe the few good days.
I think it's very confusing. They get a wait for it to be changed on the website, and then you're saying, okay, he's running for Nigeria for now. Running for quite confusing.
Yeah, we're still calling her Nigeria International because that's what it is at the moment.
She's a Nigerian, no problem.
She's representing Nigeria here because it has not been officially changed.
That's that concern for me. If you want to be a Turkish international, just be Turkish international. You want to be a Nigerian international, just be a Nigerian international.
There has to be due process for all of this. I think I was just waiting for that confirmation to be able to ascertain. Favor Ofili, of course, representing Turkey in the...
Or probably she might change her mind.
Well, I do not know. I don't know because we had the Athletics Federation of the country, come out to confirm that she has actually switched their allegiance.
So I wasn't expecting her to represent Nigeria.
Well, Nigeria is still lacking top athletes. However you want to look at it. So
she's on loan on Nigeria to Nigeria now. Well, a basic conversation. Still trying to add up the numbers. Well, maybe by tomorrow we'll get clarity on it. Why she's still representing Nigeria and part of the books of Turkey.
The World Championship this year, and it's just like when it comes to football, you have the World Cup and you have when you go represent your club side. So this is more like an individual thing. She's not representing Nigeria. She is Favor Ofili right here at this Budapest competition, just like Enekwechi. So they're not representing Nigeria. Nigeria's name is not there. It was Favor Ofili qualifying for the World Championships coming up later in the year. So that was it. Not really representing Nigeria.
Okay,
she's just a Nigerian national.
Maybe before the World Championship we're expecting. We'll definitely have a clarity to that.
After qualifying for the World, we get a clarity. She now will be a Turkish national at the World Championship.
This is it now. If you recall, I think last week where we had that national trials in Lagos, she wasn't part of the list that went to Lagos for screening. But the likes of Toby Amos and the rest of other athletes were there. So it could also be signs that she will not be representing Nigeria at the World Athletics Championship.
I think we stick with one funny thing I said. Probably what just an individual meet, giving her performance irrespective of where you represent. It doesn't matter. A major tournament like Olympics, that's when you begin to decide where you represent. But at some point, I pity the commentators because they'll be like the Nigerian international,
ex-Nigeria international,
or now who'll be a Turkish international. What she's been able to do, but we can only wish Favor Ofili all the best moving forward in all of this. And I will go on a quick break, and when we're back, it will be football stories all around the world, looking at the possibilities that comes with it. And one big talking point would center around definitely Well, the fall of the Super Eagles B team, the worst record they've had at the tournament, first time Nigeria's gotten. All right, I reserve it. Don't go anywhere. When we're back, we'll talk about all the stats and the details that comes with it. Welcome back to the Sports Central. My name is Vladimir Kumutweda. Having fun to with me for a company going nowhere. Well, before we came back on, lots of conversation about the Chan Eagles. It's really a pain for many Nigerians and the disappointment that comes with it. And that's why we're beginning straight from there. It's football stories all around the world. Well, Sudan had to humiliate Nigeria 4-0. Kwasi Appiah said, the coach of the Sudanese national team, he said, well, he believes he could beat Nigeria, but he never thought that the Nigerian national team would lose with such a wide margin. And he also said that Nigeria players are not that bad. They need better coaching. A big pointer to Eric Charles, but the conversation is the Super Eagles of Nigeria lost 4-0. One player has been a key culprit in this, Leonard Ngenge, the Kordu City footballer, defender. In the first leg against Senegal, he made a mistake, same him. Second leg against Sudan, first two goals came from his mistake, and one being the ball hitting his hand and a penalty in that direction. But on the overall, the Super Eagles B team were quite humiliated. I was going through some of Ghanaian pages when they were talking about, because he's up here and the stuff I had. Some said, well, it's not Super Eagles of Nigeria. What are you talking about? But others were quite pitiful because they looked at it. This Eagles defeated the Ghanaian national team to qualify, and now another Ghanaian coach redeeming the Ghanaians one way or the other for the Sudanese.
Well, if there was any bad opportunity where Nigeria would have been humiliated this much, would have been in that first game against Senegal, because they are the most complete team in that group. I mean, if you take a look at the quality of all the teams, Nigeria, Sudan, Congo, they are the most complete team in the group.
Why do you think they are the most complete team?
We're talking about defending champions.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
They've got the most points at the moment. It matters.
We saw Sudan. You can indirectly taking it away from Sudan. The team that Senegal struggled and one mistake they played 1-0. Sudan beat Nigeria flawlessly 4-0.
Sudan.
And the other game, I'm just giving a perspective. And the other game, what's the name of the Congo scored first against Senegal. Yeah. Senegal had to beg to equalize. So you dare not say Senegal are clearly the best team in that group.
Until we have Senegal meet Sudan. That's the last group game. We'll definitely come back to this conversation.
Absolutely.
But then away from that now, I look at Eric Sekuchel and the mistakes he had yesterday. Most times, I do not know what happens to coaches, because the Ngenge in question you've actually mentioned made that same mistake against Senegal. Why start him in the second game? Why start him in the second game against Sudan? Now, here it is now. They were everything went wrong for Nigeria. I mean, the first half hour mark of the game, I personally followed the game. They controlled possession, but their inability to break through the defense of South Sudan, or Sudan rather, was another problem. I mean, if you look at Eric Sekuchel and the approach he has to games, he likes his fullbacks to go up front and make some level of creativity up front as well. But whenever there are break-up plays, they are not able to track back and, of course, cover those grounds. And then when you have a very, very, midfield that is not really composed and, of course, defensive enough, you're meant to be exposed. And that's what happened to the Super Eagles of Nigeria yesterday. The tactical approach by Eric Sekuchel went wrong. I mean, the boys were actually off guard in terms of confidence in that game. And I think Eric Sekuchel, for me, just like I've always said at the start of the competition, shouldn't have been in this particular competition. You're bringing in different ideas to the boys they're not used to at a major competition as big as this. you cannot practice. It will never work. And that's what happened yesterday.
Well, Fanitina, we can talk about this game all day, but I want to get your perspective before I come from different perspective regarding, because there are many factors that said beyond the loan at Geng of Ikorodu City and the mistakes done at this tournament. What went wrong for you?
Well, I would say, first of all, you don't fix a clock that's not broken. The NFF made a mistake, checking Eric Sekuchao to come and oversee what Daniel Ogumbodede and Fidelis Electrical did in the qualifying series, because the team had no problems. We had no problems with that side. The qualifying series was as smooth as possible.
Absolutely.
And then you bring someone to just, I think that's not done anywhere. Shouldn't have been done. Maybe they would have waited till after the competition. I think Eric Sekuchao would always come with his ideas. He's a coach. You cannot tell him, okay, come and listen to what Fidelis is doing. I cannot even blame him, because he's always going to try to implement his system.
Especially when you make him the head coach.
Exactly.
Indirectly, what you're saying is you have
He's the coach of the side. He's the national
team
team
coach. For this particular tournament, not Eric Sekuchao, not football. Maybe the Super Eagles B team as well are to blame, because how do you lose 4-0 to Sudan?
Well, what going there?
Yeah.
What going there?
Yeah.
A part of the conversation from Eric Shaw was the fact that some players left the camp, about 6 players thereabout, the likes of Bobakar Sadiq of Plateau United, Philip Adejo, Abi Warriors, Xavier Isaac Rangers, Papa Daniel Mustafa, who's been about the Super Eagles of Nigeria in that direction, and Wale Ojetoye of Ikorodu City. And they said some of the best players about an injury to the main goalkeeper of the side. So it's like another player was injured too in the course of it. So you're saying about 7 key players of the side are injured. And Eric Sekuchao came out to say, look, my best players were not available. Our players left camp for greener pastures. This could be a big problem for the side and the coaches, because you're preparing with the best players in the league, and the best players in the league are out. You have to leave with the remainders of the players that you carried there. So one concern to look at. So put this side by side, and I'll start with you now. What Nigeria gets to do, especially at this tournament, because we've heard of it time and time again. Our players are going for a maintenance. Clubs can wait. Let the tournament be over. It wouldn't lapse more than 1 month thereabout, and they go. Maybe the transfer market is that concern for them, but it's a pending issue for the Super Eagles B team.
Well, first of all, I would say you cannot really stop a player when he wants to move. Come on, look at the shores of the country. Football here, is it really that good? When you get to it, probably there's something called pre-season, over there. So when you move in from the shores of the country, you have to move in time for pre-season so you can acclimatize to football over there. So I cannot really blame these players. And I know you can wait, but at the end of it, what's the status of this competition? Is it a tournament worth waiting for? That's the question.
Could you agree with a coach that this could be a problem? Because indirectly you're saying 7, if you're having a starting lineup of 11 and 7 of the key players are out of the team.
I'll tell you this. Even with those players still in the national team in this tournament, they will still be beaten. They will still be beaten. I mean, we're not even talking about the quality of these players at the moment.
We're not so sure of it anyway.
I mean, look at it. At the qualifier stages, this same team defeated Ghana. In the first game they drew, the second game they defeated Ghana to qualify.
The coach is saying the bulk of the players that played those matches are out.
Some of those players were injured in the second game against Ghana. Are you aware?
Papa Daniel Mustafa didn't.
He wasn't part. But they were able to get the better of Ghana.
Country, yeah?
So this is not actually an excuse for Eric Sekuchao at the moment. It's just about introducing a new idea when you're having the season running. It won't be that easy for those players to acclimatize. So I basically feel for me, he would have been out of this particular tournament, leaving it for the likes of Fidelis Electrical and Daniel Ogumbodede to oversee the functions. They are the ones in charge of MPFL football clubs. Yeah. They basically play with all of these players across all these club sites. So they understand the quality and the strength of these players. So when you're bringing in a new idea to the national team setup, you need time for these players to gel and understand your ideas. So that's what happened.
Well, and that's what's happened next for the Super Eagles B team at the Chan competition. Or was it at 18 or 9? But next week, Tuesday, basically.
Yeah, next week.
Against Congo.
Against Congo.
A dead rubber game.
Yeah.
Fight for pride.
Yeah, absolutely. It just try to bring national honors. You've been beaten twice, get a victory. But one last conversation, because it seems like we're dwelling on the Super Eagles game and get to talk about nothing. We'll just see how we can round off at the end of it. But one last conversation is, the Super Eagles coach comes in. Is that a fear factor for some of the players? Because I watched him, they couldn't move forward. They were just passing the ball by the base. After that first goal attempt that was ruled out by Vieira, and since then they were just passing the ball, holding on to the ball too long. Yeah. Can the fear factor come in when you realize that a national team coach came to watch you, or it's your current coach? Because I remember at the times of, who was that? Genero Absolutely. And the Super Eagles goalkeeper now, Stanley Nwabali, was in, I think, Ayimba Rivers United then. And they told him, come on, the national team coach is coming to watch you. He was just a youngster, and he really fumbled.
Well, I do not think it's about a case of fear factor in here. We all know that Eric Sekuchel's approach to games was dominating games. Yeah. But the inability to break through the defense of Sudan was a major issue. I mean, if we actually had a fear factor, they wouldn't have been able to even dominate possession in the aftermath of the game. They will actually be behind the foot. So I think it's quite a case of, trying to find a balance for this team. Not just, dominating games. So how can you actually break through, find those loopholes, and give those killer passes for the attackers to finish off? I think it's still a lengthy walk for the side, and it's not just a walk for just one tournament. You have to start from friendly games, qualifiers, before we go to the main tournament.
The other angle we've not really talked about now, because when you look at this result, many people ask a question. They said, you always clamor for home-based players to be part of the Super Eagles of Nigeria, the main team. Look in Africa, they can't even hold their own against some of the teams in Africa like Sudan. Many Nigerians are saying it. So how do you draft these players to the Super Eagles of Nigeria? Is it a problem of quality? Because we look at it, Nigerian League side, they're also struggling in CAF Confederations Cup and CAF Champions League. Is it a picture of what many have been talking about?
Well, I would still say that we don't have our best players spared next season. I keep saying time and time again, even when we go to CAF competitions, this is not the same set of players who played last season. So you cannot really say these are the legs from the Nigerian Premier Football League.
But they're the legs from the Nigerian Premier Football League.
More often than not, the top scorer from the Nigerian Premier Football League gets to lead this next season.
So what
How often does that happen in other African leagues?
What are you saying in
that we cannot base the Nigerian Professional Football League based on the players that go to try tournaments, because at the end of the season they get to leave. Look at Papa Dada Mustafa.
So
go on,
not a question.
Of Nigeria.
I understand, but I'm trying to understand your argument for Itina.
So
who are the people playing?
This is the arguments now. This set of players that we invited for the Chan tournament, we invited best on their best performance last season in the MPFL. How many of them have had consistent performance for the last 3 seasons? Some of them are just playing in the MPFL for the first time last season. So we can't actually, I understand where he's coming from. You can't base the quality of the MPFL based on the fact that we've got just a single season.
So where do we base the quality then?
I mean, it's a whole lot of factors.
Look at our exports.
No, you don't get it.
I understand.
Here's a simple question.
I understand where you're coming from.
You're saying we shouldn't base on it. I'm asking, where do we base it on?
I mean, the entire league is a problem here. Definitely, it's a problem.
You're going back to what we're saying.
You cannot keep hold of your best of a player for 2 years. How do you expect to be progressional? That's a problem.
And that is a problem. So it speaks volume about the quality in the Nigerian Premier Football League, but it seems like a harvest ground. Every season a player comes up, boom, he leaves for greener pastures, and big concern. Well, I don't know how we're going to do it to talk about, or the talking point around the world anyway. Well, defending champions, Senegal had to force to put a draw against Congo. Well, Barak players, they're getting some 10.5 million naira bikes for MPFL promotion. Really?
And bikes.
Missed something, huh? Big amount of money, 7.5 million.
Are they going to be doing part-time?
No, it's up to whatever. Fuel price is very costly now.
The deputy Senate president owns the club, Barau Jibrin, the deputy Senate president, so splashing cash, something we're used to.
Oh, you should have at least given them cash. I'm very concerned.
Well, trust me, if one thing is to buy a car, the other one is to feel it these days. Well, Continental Cup CAF approves only Uyo Abuja Stadium for Nigeria's
4 teams.
Quartet. We're going to talk about it tomorrow.
2 stadiums.
Yes, we'll talk about it tomorrow. Okay. With David. Make sure we talk about it tomorrow.
Definitely
just like a Paris Saint-Germain are looking to add fit trophy against Tottenham as Sports leave out Besuma for persistent lateness. Thomas Frank is angry with him. While Liverpool are stepping up bid to sign a Palace again. I hear about £35 million plus add-ons in that direction. As Newcastle are in talks with a Villa for Ramsey, and Kylian Mbappe nets braces Real Madrid East to friendly win. First time donning the number 10 shirt after Luka Modric left the side. Jose Mourinho's Fenerbahce had to rally back with 5 goals to beat Feyenoord to qualify to the next level of it, as Tottenham move transfer battle with Arsenal Liberace's and Premier League's matches to have moment of silence for Diogo Jota in the first round. Absolutely. And Bournemouth still £34 million signing for defender Diakite. Well, one story we've not talked about. Today we have the big game that's taking place. Today's the Super Cup, right?
Yeah, that's there.
Absolutely. The Super Cup takes place today. Would be Tottenham Hotspur against Paris Saint-Germain. What a game. Definitely, we'll talk about it tomorrow. Well, thank you guys for being a part of it. Exciting times always ahead in the world of sports.
Yesterday, Xabi Alonso was here telling the Real Madrid player, pass the ball to Ada, pass the ball to Ada. Very important figure, just like I told you.
Well,
we'll see you next season.
The love for Ada might just be the biggest problem for Real Madrid. Richard David, thank you for being a part of it.
A depleted sports side taking Paris Saint-Germain. We know the answers already.
All right. Tomorrow we'll talk about it then, because it's football, somewhat, somehow. Remember what happened, Chelsea versus Paris Saint-Germain. Now it's the time for sports and Thomas Frank to egg his name in the echelon of football. Well, we're bounced. My name is Blyden Kim. Thank you very much for being a part of it. Tomorrow is another day.